DOW. Dits on Wrestling.
Welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast. I am your host, Dits, and I'm here to guide you through episode 21 today. That is right, episode 20 last week has been and gone. But it was a really, really good episode. If you haven't checked it out yet, go back and listening to it, because not only do you get my first interview with a wrestler on this show, you also get a Viagra commercial that I made for episode 1 way back in April. So there's that. if that is not a selling point for you going back to listen to last week's show, or hell, even go back to episode 1 to hear the damn thing, I don't know what is. There is no hope for you. But that's episode 20. That was last week. This is episode 21. But I think I kind of need a breather from last week. So today I'm riding solo. I'm going solo, people. I'm covering Clash of Champions on my own. I'm covering Raw and SmackDown on my own. The only people joining me today are the voice clips. The people doing the voice clips. That's it. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I started this podcast as an individual with nobody else. So this is just like kind of like a flashback to how things used to be. But don't worry, I will have a guest back on next week. But hey, if you want to hear me with a guest, my new series dropped this week, DOW Draft That. I'm with Anthony Talk Stuff, and we draft the current crop of WWE superstars. It dropped on Monday. Great feedback so far. Really, really fun episode. Go and check that out. Next week, I mean, of course, I will plug this twice because I'm really excited about this one. Next week, myself and Wilf of Brainbuster Radio, we will be drafting the Attitude Era. So look out for that one. I will mention it again, just so you don't forget. Just so you don't forget. Now, before we get into everything, it was my birthday on Sunday. So that was a fun time. And, I'm probably sure that many of the people listening right now wished me a happy birthday over on Twitter. And I just want to say on here, just in case you didn't see my thank you on Sunday, thank you very much for those birthday messages, because I wasn't expecting them at all. I was very humbled to receive all of those. But why does it? The birthday doesn't have to end there, right? Head over to iTunes and drop me a little birthday present in there. 5-star review and a nice press of the subscription button. There you go. Birthday over. You've done your bit. But of course, if you do that, then, thank you very much. I know some people have already, so thank you as well for those reviews and ratings. Greatly appreciated. But it's time to get into the crux of this thing. Later on, we're going to do the DOW Power Ranking results for Round 2, and of course, the Raw and SmackDown highlights. But something happened this week in WWE, and it was a pay-per-view. So it seems only fitting that we talk about that, or I talk about that. But before we get into what I thought of the show, there is a caveat that comes with it. When I was trying to watch the network on my phone, it was okay. It kept cutting out every now and then, but it was bearable. I managed to get through the kickoff show, so I got the Cruiserweight title match, and I got the US title match. So I thought, this is going well. The network hasn't massively let me down yet. But then I moved upstairs to the man cave and put the Xbox on, and I was like, here we go. The show has literally just started. They're about to go, WWE presents, all that stuff. I thought, this is perfect timing. I'll sit in my chair. I'll crack open my energy drink, because, God, I need those as a UK fan of wrestling. Put the network on, and it wasn't working. Absolute sadness, my end. So I had video, but I had no audio, but the video was like glitching all over the place, and then it would crash my Xbox, so I had to turn it off, turn it back on again. I went back into it. Then I had audio and no video. So I was like, what the fuck? And this lasted for about 50 minutes. Well, maybe not 50. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. I'd say at least half an hour, though. that I was just struggling with this thing. And it actually got to the point where I just went downstairs and I was just like, I just need to cool off with this thing. Because I get very angry with stuff like that. When stuff should work, but it doesn't, I get angry with it. So I kind of just need to walk away. So I just thought, I'll just find out what happens on Twitter. Because I'm just going to... I don't want to rewatch Clash of Champions. I just want to know what is happening right now, and then I can move on. And that's what I did. I stayed on Twitter for, half an hour, 35 minutes, and then I went, hang on a minute. Upstairs, not only do I have an Xbox, but I have a fucking Mac. Why the hell am I not watching it on there? So I flashed up the Mac. Perfect. HD video and whatever the highest quality of audio is. That's what I had. And I was like, oh, why the fucking hell did I not think of that? Because I was angry. So, health tip, don't get angry. Doesn't do you any wonders. It blocks your mind's inner workings. I completely blanked that I had the Mac. But there you go. So I missed like the first 35 minutes to 45 minutes of the main show. I think, when did I get into it? I think I was halfway through. It might have been further on. It was actually further on. It was in the New Day Revival match. So yeah, I missed a big chunk of that. But there you go. Whatever. We'll try our best to review this thing because hell, I need to give you content. So, Clash of Champions, the half-assed review, here we go. So, let's start off with the Cruiserweight Championship match. And this is what I like about it. I mean, I know I like to see the Cruiserweight title defended on the main show because it's very rare when you get a bad match. Like, the least you're going to get is an entertaining match from the Cruiserweights. It doesn't matter who is the champion. It doesn't matter who is the challenger or challengers. You're going to get a fun match. You're going to get something entertaining, something that's going to either warm up the crowd if it was the first match on the main show, or it's going to re-energize the crowd, or just keep them going. That's what the Cruiserweights are there for. They can do that consistently, and I think they've only had maybe 2 blips since they started defending titles on main roster pay-per-views. So I had high hopes for this thing when I saw it, and I don't think it disappointed. It really didn't. I'm happy with the result. Drew Gulak is a fantastic Cruiserweight champion, and if the rumors I'm hearing are that 205 Live is getting canned and the Cruiserweights are moving over to NXT, I don't know if that is true, but I don't think it would be a bad thing. Of course, 205 Live is like, you could call it a hidden gem. You really could on the network because not many people watch it. But if those guys move to NXT and they've got another hour to fill now, then Cruiserweights can more than happily fill that void of needing more and more content within that extra hour of NXT. Like, they can do that. They can go out there and put on a 6-minute match and just wow the audience. Not that NXT doesn't wow you anyway, but it just adds a little something. But the match itself was good, and everybody shone. Everybody in that match shone. But I think Drew Gulak was the right choice to win because I'm enjoying his reign as Cruiserweight champion, and it's nice to have somebody who is a Cruiserweight but not a high flyer, as the champion, because you don't always need to be a high flyer. Cruiserweights, are just, you're under 205 pounds. It's as simple as that. Just because, you fly around the ring doesn't really matter. You know who else flies around the ring? Apollo Crews, but he's not under 205 pounds, so he's not a Cruiserweight. So you don't have to fly around. Simple. And I just like Gulak. I think he's a great talent. I think I say we as if I work for WWE. Nope. If WWE continue to put their faith in him as Cruiserweight champion, and I say WWE, it's Triple H. I don't think Vince gives a shit about whatever happens with the Cruiserweight division, to be honest. If Triple H keeps his faith in Drew Gulak, it's gonna put the Cruiserweights in a good stand-in moving forward as NXT starts to build its momentum on TV, because if that rumor is true and the Cruiserweights move over to there, then Hell, you need momentum for that division, I tell you. Then we had AJ Styles versus Cedric Alexander. I missed the first couple of minutes of the match, but from what I did see, it was all go. Like, it was just constant flowing of just offense between the two of them. It was a fun match. It was fun, but I was gutted to see that it was on the kickoff show. That surprised me because I wasn't really on Twitter, during the build. I literally switched on the pre-show as the bell rang for the Cruiserweight match. And then I stayed away from, social media. I had my phone on charge ready for the main show. And I kind of saw that this was happening, and I was like, well, this is a bit strange. Surely maybe the women's tag titles could have moved to the pre-show, or the Intercontinental Championship could have moved down. Or actually, to be honest, you could probably say move the SmackDown Live tag title match down there, because that hasn't really had any build for like 2 or 3 weeks. So you could have moved that down there. I don't think anybody would have cared. It was surprising. It was surprising. But hell, it was a fun little match for what it was, despite being on the pre-show. It had AJ Styles in there. It had a Cedric Alexander in full momentum mode. It was fun. It was fun for what it was. And I think despite the fact that, Cedric kind of got the beat down, it was a decisive win for AJ. Of course it was. But the fact he put him away with not only a phenomenal forearm and a Styles Clash, I think that protects Cedric just a little bit. That AJ had to kind of go, I need to add something else to this to put him away. So he added the extra move. So I think that kind of protects Cedric a little bit. So, yeah. I'm glad AJ won. I think, he's the right person at the moment to keep elevating that US title, because if the championship changed hands, you're in that situation where it's just bouncing around, and we don't need that for now. The US title is on somebody who is, he's phenomenal. So keep it on him. Build up that prestige again. Though we haven't really seen it since Cena. We really haven't. So build up that prestige again with AJ. AJ is more than credible. Like, he's a main event star holding a mid-card title. So it can only be good for the strap. So keep it on AJ. Keep that momentum going. Build up that prestige. And then when the time is right, pass it off to somebody who, can really, kind of grab that torch and move on with it. But the match itself, it was fun. I enjoyed it. There you go. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky for old Ditz. I didn't see the opening tag team match, but I saw the finish. And I know, obviously, the result. So I'll comment on that rather than what I actually saw in the match. I think it was obvious who was going to win this thing. It went on first, and then you kind of went, well, there were rumors that Reigns and Rowan were going to go on last, but I thought that seems a little bit odd. I don't think WWE would do it, and of course they didn't end up doing it. So in my mind, from the get-go, it was like, these guys are starting this main show, tag titles, so they're going to finish the show with the Universal title. And, that did end up happening, but when my mind went to there, I knew they were dropping the belts. I don't think the dynamic would have worked going forward. To be honest, I think them having the tag titles in the first place, it just didn't really work for me. It kind of halted the OC's momentum straight away, which I wasn't really happy with. But it is what it is. I don't book this shit. I just watch it and just take it for what it is. But yeah, I think the result was right. Even though Ziggler and Rude were just thrown together, they had to win. They did have to win, because you just couldn't keep the tag titles on Braun and Seth. And maybe with Dolph and Robert having these titles, maybe we'll start to see something. They've been a team for a few weeks now. They're dominating as a team. Are they gelling as a team though? I don't really know. It still seems... Oh, of course, it is thrown... very much thrown together, but when Sheamus and Cesaro were thrown together, they had something. Whereas I'm not seeing that with Ziggler and Rude quite yet. But hopefully, maybe this win will kind of push them in that direction, push them in the direction of the bar. I don't think they'll exceed, what the bar did, but hell, if they come even slightly close, then, well, we can't complain. The next match, I think it was Bayley versus Charlotte. Now, again, I only knew what happened in this match for the countless amount of GIFs running around, literally running around. Bayley like scarpering with her title. So I assumed that Bayley had won by cheating. That was my assumption. And then I found out by just asking the question what actually happened in the match. Turns out Charlotte dominated the whole thing. The match lasted 5 minutes, and Bayley won because she slammed Charlotte into an exposed turnbuckle for the win. I think this match could have been more. Of course, obviously I didn't watch it, but the fact that it only went for 5 minutes, Charlotte and Bayley, they could have had a really, really good match there. However, if we're building Bayley up as this heel, I like that she's a heel that's holding on to that babyface stuff. I'm actually really enjoying that aspect of her character at the moment. I think doing this kind of, I think it kind of helped solidify the heel turn a little bit. Using the exposed turnbuckle, something that she would never ever have done as her, hug-a-lot babyface. So it really, really helped a lot in that regard, building that heel character, and it was the right call as well. Bayley was winning this, had to win it you can't just turn her heel and then take the title off her. It just, I don't know, it just wouldn't sit right. And the only way Charlotte was going to come away with a win is if it was like by DQ or count out or something like that. But obviously we didn't have that. I think this was the best outcome. The match could have been longer, but this is the best outcome for both parties. What that means for Charlotte now moving forward is Charlotte now a baby face, or kind of like leaning in that direction of Bayley? Has it just been a double switch? I don't know, but Charlotte can survive the loss. Like, she's a 9-time women's champion in, like the space of 4 or 5 years. I think she'll be fine with a loss. Then we had... so somebody's going to correct me on my match memory. I should probably have like the match card in front of me, but it's fun trying to guess what actually happened on this show. I believe the SmackDown tag titles were next. So New Day versus the Revival. Now, by all accounts, this was a decent match. I didn't watch it. I caught the very end of it. So Big E had he got taken out on the floor as I tuned in. So I just based on that, I kind of thought, right, we're probably at the back end of this thing. But I loved that finish to that match, regardless of the fact I didn't see what happened before it. I loved the finish. They had that stare down, and it was like Woods knew that he was about to lose this match. Like, you could just see it. And I think the audience as well, like people watching, they kind of go, well, the writing's on the wall here. It's 2-on-1. Surely Woods isn't going to come out of this. And he didn't. However, when they hit that shatter machine and didn't pin him, I thought, here we go. The heels look stupid. Again, the Revival are made to look stupid. But instead, they looked brutal. They looked ruthless. And that's a Revival that I can get on board with. They locked him in a submission and Woods tapped out. And then we have new tag team champions. So I love the outcome. I love New Day as tag team champions. But I think this reign has been completely overshadowed by the fact that Kofi is the WWE champion. I don't think they should hold the titles again until Kofi loses his title. I like the fact that they all held championships. It's just because of Kofi holding the championship, it completely overshadows the other two, because we haven't really seen them in the last couple of weeks, which is, kind of proof of that. And the Revival, I've loved their stuff. I love the fact that they're paired with Randy Orton at the moment. So they've kind of got a little bit of momentum behind them. I guess you could call it a little bit of a push. So putting the titles on those, the SmackDown titles, the draft is coming up as well. I think they'll be a very, very good addition to SmackDown. Of course, this is a draft. We don't know who's going where, but it's nice to see them on SmackDown and not Raw on a consistent basis. So looking forward to that. Moving on. Here we go. What matches do we have here? I am struggling. Intercontinental Championship. We'll go with that one. It was okay. Nakamura versus Miz. Sami Zayn, the mouthpiece. He's like the new Lio Rush. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, because I did enjoy Lio Rush. There was just a lot of it that I didn't. And it's a shame, because I love Sami Zayn. I think he's absolutely fantastic in the ring. He's such a good character. I'm on the fence, okay? I'm on the fence when it comes to this Nakamura and Zayn pairing. I'm going to give it more time and just kind of see where it goes. Of course, it's effective because, Nakamura retained thanks to Zayn, helping out. But I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how long Sami can, be the mouthpiece for Nakamura. I don't know. But it was an okay match. Like, the Miz as a babyface just doesn't work for me anymore. It's annoying because not all of us. I'm sure there was some that didn't, but a lot of people wanted to see the Miz become a babyface, and I was one of them. And when he did, it was fresh, it was exciting. We're going to see this new side to the Miz, and initially it was great. But then Shane McMahon bested him at every single point. Regardless of how he did it, he bested him at every single point. And that completely ruined the momentum that Miz had as a babyface. And it derailed him. It really did derail him. And since then, I don't think he's been able to recover. There have been moments where he's shown like a really good, like, fiery side to being a babyface. But for the most part, it's disappointed. And I cannot wait to see him go back to being a heel again, because at some point somebody has to say that Miz is not working as a babyface. He is one of the best heels in the world. When he is a heel, we'll revert him back to that. So we'll see. But the right person won. Even though the Miz, was going to be, I can't remember if he was going to break a record or he was going to match a record. But regardless of that stat, Nakamura has a new lease of life as Intercontinental Champion with Sami Zayn by his side. So we'll see. Yeah, it kind of makes sense just to kind of see where that goes. So the right person won. It was a decent match. What was next? Screw it. I'm just going. We're not going to go in any order. We'll just kind of wing it. If I miss a match, I miss a match. Whatever. The women's tag team title match was a match that I missed. I missed a lot of that match because I can't remember what I was doing, but I just wasn't paying attention to it. Apparently it was okay. The right team won. As much as I like Fire and Desire as a team, it kind of rubbed me up the wrong way last week on SmackDown when the whole ugly thing, like, I'm completely over that side of thing in WWE. Like, you don't need to hear that, just to hear that kind of stuff anymore. It's shit. It really is. So yeah, I was happy for Bliss and Cross to win. But the thing that confuses me about this whole thing, though, is like, at what point do we know what alignment Bliss and Cross are? Are they baby faces or are they heels? Do they just kind of decide based on who they're feuding with? It's a weird one. They kind of need to just decide what they're going to be and just stick to it. because I'm happy with them as heels. I'm happy with them as baby faces. They just need to decide which one they want to actually be. But apart from that, like, it's nice to see, as much as I love the Iconics, and, you know, I mean, in hindsight, yes, you could say it was an absolutely terrible reign because they'd never defended those titles. You know, we never really saw them. We're seeing Bliss and Cross every single week on both Raw and SmackDown. Whether they're going to change the rules on, you know, where that title can be defended once the draft happens, you know, is up in the air. But it's good to see them every single week. It'll be nicer to see them head over to NXT because that's what Sasha and Bayley promised when they had the titles. But, you know, that stuff will come maybe now that NXT is moving up to TV. We'll see what happens there, but they were the right team to win. They're having a good reign. Yeah, it was okay. And then I think there was 24/7 title shenanigans like halfway through. I don't know how that played out because I didn't see it. I don't know if maybe people might have thought that was a little bit disrespectful to the match. Maybe they could have just done it in its own segment. That's how I would have, I think, perceived it. But I don't know how it went down, so I can't really comment on how that was. Then we have, I'm going to go with the Raw Women's Title match, and this is probably the first match on the entire show where I sat and just watched it. I had no distractions. I put my phone down to one side. I just watched the match, and it was really good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't as, because I watched Becky and Sasha, their match for the NXT Women's Championship down in NXT, obviously, because it was up on WWE, their YouTube page, so you could just watch it. So I watched that the same day. I watched it on Sunday, and it was fantastic. It was just as good as I remembered it. And I had high hopes, high expectations coming into this match, and they were almost met. It wasn't as good as the NXT offering, but it was still a very good match. Initially, the finish, I didn't like it. I knew that there was maybe going to be something dodgy going on, like at the end, because you couldn't really have Sasha, you know, drop the belt. Well, not drop the belt, just lose the match. And kind of derails everything she'd done to this point since returning. And then at the same time, does Becky drop the belt at this stage, or do we have her, you know, continue her reign a little bit longer, you know, and just build this into a proper little feud? I knew something was going to happen, and it was always going to be the chair. The chair was always going to come into the equation, and well, I didn't expect it to turn into a brawl through the crowd and the referee to be down for what appeared to be about 25 minutes. I didn't expect that. So it turned out to be like a fun little, a fun little segment, like after the match. It kind of had an old school feel to it, where we would see that kind of stuff, you know, a lot, you know, in the late 90s, early 90s, you know, because you don't really see that kind of stuff anymore. So it was fun. It was fun, and I think it was the right decision not to have a definitive winner, because I mean, I guess it's going to go into. I say I guess, I know it's going to be Hell in a Cell between the two of them inside Hell in a Cell, which is going to be amazing. By the way, I really liked Sasha versus Charlotte in Hell in a Cell, so substitute Charlotte for Becky. I don't think that is a downgrade. I really don't. So that's going to be fun when we get to that. I think now looking back, I'm happy with the finish. I'm happy with how it went down. Everything about it. You know, Becky got fined $10,000 or something like that. So I guess that's the thing now. You can't like breathe on a referee without getting a kayfabe fine. I don't know. I guess whatever with that. I don't think that's going to feed into the storyline. But, you know, hey, continuity, I guess. If you're going to find Kevin Owens, find Becky, even though Becky's was completely accidental, and I guess Shane's fine to Kevin was, you know, a bit of dickheadery, but hell, whatever. It was a good match. Right outcome. Best match of the show to this point, and hell, screw it. I'll just say it was the best match of the show. There you go. Then we had the WWE Championship match. Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. It was weird, this one. It's a weird one because I sat and watched it. And I remember watching it and remember thinking in my head, this is the match that they should have had at SummerSlam. I have enjoyed this. But then I went on social media and saw like plenty of recaps and reviews on numerous websites about, the pay-per-view itself. And this was consistently getting like, around the 2-star, region. I don't remember it being that bad. I know it was slow, but every Randy Orton match is slow. It's plodding. But I don't know. It's like I can kind of see the story when it comes to Randy Orton matches, because that's what it is. A Randy Orton match is not a spot fest. It really isn't. It's more based on like the story, and he's methodical for a reason. It's all slow pace for a reason. I mean, that's what I personally believe anyway. That's how I perceive the Randy Orton character to be. Like, he's not a fast-paced wrestler who needs to go to achieve what he needs to achieve. I had Orton down to win this thing, and when he hit that RKO, I thought, here we go, 1, 2, 3. But Kofi was next to the rope, so yeah, that was the end of that. So in the moment that leg went on that rope, I knew Kofi was going to win. Trouble in Paradise, nice clean win. I guess that's it between those two. But considering the build to this thing, this is the only thing that disappointed me. Considering the build, how that SummerSlam match ended with the whole family thing, and then Kofi going batshit crazy with the chair on Orton, and then last week, well, not even just last week, the beatdowns like building up to this thing. Last week, Kofi putting Orton through a table, all that kind of stuff. I kind of expected a little bit more aggression, a little bit more intensity in this match, but we didn't get it. It's fine. I think that would have boosted the match a little bit. I think it would have had less complaints if we had that. But honestly, I enjoyed the match. So I guess as long as I'm happy as a fan, then that's all that matters. At the end of the day, for me. Then we had what are the matches? I think that's all the matches, is it not? No, 2 matches left. Rowan versus Roman Reigns. This was so much better than it had any right to be. And that's not me saying that the match was incredible, because I don't think it really was. I think it went on a little bit too long. But this wasn't even about Roman Reigns. This was like Rowan's coming out party. Roman really made him look fantastic in this thing. I don't know what this means going forward for Rowan. Of course, Luke Harper made his return, which was completely unexpected. I didn't see anything in the rumor mill that this was going to happen. I know it was mentioned that, or maybe Luke Harper's the one that attacked Roman Reigns, but kind of like, nah, it's never going to happen. And nothing kind of alluded to that. So him coming out was just a complete surprise. I was caught off guard. I was like, whoa, who's this guy? And then he turned around. I was like, fuck, it's Luke Harper. That is incredible. That's amazing. It was a good match. It was a good match. Rowan looked incredible. Luke Harper is back, so these two are destined to be together. They have a bromantic bond that just won't shake. Whether they're the Wyatt family, or they're just Harper and Rowan, or they're bludgeoning things or running people over now, I guess, is their new gimmick. I think together they're better. They are better as a team together. As single stars, they floundered. Apart from Harper. Harper could be an incredible single star given the chance, but I don't think he will. So the second best option is to put him with Rowan in a fantastic tag team. Because I actually enjoyed their bludgeoning ways. I actually thought they were called the Bludgeoning then for a second, the Bludgeon Brothers. I actually loved them as the Bludgeon Brothers. I didn't actually mind that whole thing at all. But now that they kind of seem to be playing themselves, like Rowan especially, he comes to the ring, with his metal t-shirts on and all that kind of stuff. Not actual metal, not the material metal, the genre of music metal. He's not a knight. I like that he's kind of playing his own thing, and I think Harper will be as well. They're not like creepy swamp people or, angry people with hammers. I think they're just themselves. So I'm looking forward to where this goes. I think it's going to build to that maybe Rowan did the initial attack, but then Harper was the one in the car, something like that. Maybe I don't know how this is going to play out, but the match exceeded my expectations. I'll put it that way. Rowan came off looking great. So I think that's what this was all about. And Roman, you wouldn't have actually, at the start of the year, you wouldn't have said that Roman Reigns would have lost to Shane McMahon and Eric Rowan this year. You really wouldn't have said that, would you? Bizarre. It is bizarre. 2019 in wrestling is bizarre. And then we had the Universal title match. I can't actually comment that much on this because I wasn't paying that much attention, honestly. I watched the beginning of it, switched off of the whole center of it, and then kind of started taking notice again when the stomps came in, which was, the end of the match. Braun came away looking strong. Of course he did. 4 stomps and a pedigree. That's what it took to take him down. But at the same time, is this what Braun does now? He kind of mucks around in the mid-card for a little bit. Meaningless feuds. Kind of gets thrown into the Universal title picture because he looked at a belt. Or because, he kind of just went, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to challenge for the title. And then somebody behind the scenes goes, yep, sure, you've got it, Braun. But by the way, you're going to lose again. That seems to be the pattern that I'm seeing here. And I don't think Braun is ever going to win that title. I think it's too late to pull the trigger. Every single time you go, oh, maybe this is the one. It's not the one. And I think when or if there is a moment where it becomes the one, we're just going to be like, whatever. He should have beaten Brock for the title way back when. He shouldn't be beating, whoever the champion is at the time now. It was an okay match from what I remember seeing. The finish, again, like I said, it made Braun look good, or protected him at least. To be honest, I don't really want to talk about the match that much longer because I didn't watch it, so I can't really do it justice. I want to talk about the fucking ending because the ending was one of those endings where that for me kind of. If I think back to Clash of Champions 2019, this is the moment I will think of. And the thing I love about the ending as well, that it adopted the classic fake out of all rights reserved, and then boom, something else happens. It was effective with Ciampa and Gargano when Ciampa betrayed him. It was amazing then. It blew my mind. And then this wasn't as effective as that, don't get me wrong, but the pop that Bray got was absolutely massive, huge, and it was great. We all kind of knew that Bray was going to challenge whoever won this match, but to actually see it happen, see the All Rights Reserved come up and go, I'm going to save it for Raw. Clearly, we're going to see it on Raw. And then bang, boom, lights out. That screechy thing, Sister Abigail, hand in the gob. The whole thing was fantastic, and again a fantastic presentation of the Fiend character. Really was, and the guy is a star. There are people saying that it's too soon for the Fiend / Bray Wyatt to be entering the Universal title picture. I can see where they're coming from. I really can. It would be nice to kind of build him up. I know technically he's been built up for a long, long time now, but we haven't seen that much in ring of him outside of the Finn Balor match at SummerSlam and him attacking people, every other week. But I just think that this is the time you capitalize on it. You have to strike while the iron's hot. And WWE haven't done that much in the past. They've kind of just let things go a little bit too far. Kind of like Braun missing out on the Universal title, against Brock Lesnar last year or the year before. They need to strike Now, as much as it would be nice to build him up a little bit more and maybe have him win the Rumble, how great would that be? And then go on to WrestleMania and, absolutely shine there. There's nothing to say that he can't go into this feud, win the Universal title, and go to the Rumble, win the damn thing as Universal title, as the Universal Champion. I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to play out, but Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, versus Seth Rollins in what will probably be in Hell in a Cell. Awesome. Give me that. He deserves it. And let's put it. And this is something else as well. This is to those people that think it's too soon for Bray, or like why is he even getting a title shot? Braun Strowman looked at Seth's title belt, and he was then given the match. So think about that. Didn't attack him. Didn't do anything. He just looked at his title belt. At least Bray has had the audacity to come out and attack the champion to gain that title shot. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But as a pay-per-view, it was okay. This was the first pay-per-view since WrestleMania where I've kind of gone, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. You know what I mean? It had some good moments, but it could have been so much better. I don't think, outside of Becky and Sasha, I don't think there was a big match feel to any of the matches. I really don't. Which is a shame, but that's where we are. It might have been because I missed a lot of the show initially because of network issues, but I do think it could have been better, and it disappointed me in that regard because every pay-per-view from WrestleMania onwards has been really, really good. This is just one of those, and again, it's disappointing because we've had such consistent TV recently with Raw, especially. I don't think my tortoise agrees. He's scratching away at his enclosure. I think because Raw and SmackDown have been consistent in a good way in the last month or two, I think in that regard it is a shame that it wasn't good, but it was watchable. It was decent. I will never watch it again. But, hell, I'll take it for what it is. Mixed reviews, I think, would be a fair assessment of Clash of Champions 2019. But there you go. But, of course, Clash of Champions leads into Monday Night Raw the following evening. So I think it's only right that we get into the Raw highlights. And don't forget, I now just do the top 3 highlights now. I don't cover, all the highlights because there's just too many. There's too many. I'll give you the honorable mentions, of course, and then I'll probably end up going into depth anyway and break my own rules. But WWE break their rules all the time, so hell, I'm going to as well. So Stephanie, lead us in to the Raw highlights. Here we go.
Welcome to Monday Night Raw!
Hand on my heart, I can tell you that I enjoyed Monday Night Raw this week. I actually can say that I loved it. I know it wasn't a perfect show, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. There was so much good stuff that happened on Raw to kind of outweigh, the stupid stuff, shall we say. Let's, gender reveal parties, that kind of stuff. But there are highlights. There are plenty of highlights, to be fair. But I've had to pick 3, my top 3. Of course, I'll give you my honorable mentions as we hit the end. Now, my first highlight is not necessarily the match that AJ was involved in, with the OC and the Viking Raiders and Cedric. It was just how dominant AJ Styles was in that match. I think we're getting to that point now where we had the whole stupid stuff with Seth Rollins and Braun taking the tag titles off Gallows and Anderson, which was a shame, but it kind of derailed their momentum, and I didn't really need that when you've just formed this new group. I say new group, obviously they're very much aware of each other and they've been together before, but this new iteration of the club, it kind of just halted their entire thing. So to see AJ and to see the OC dominant once again is a breath of fresh air. Maybe it's at Cedric Alexander's expense. 2 nights in a row, like he's been defeated definitively. There just wasn't anything more to it. There was no fight backs or any of that kind of stuff. It was just there. Cedric, you've lost. But if that feeds into AJ becoming more dominant, and really, really letting us buy into this OC stuff, then I don't mind it, because Cedric can rebound, head off into a new feud, and shine over in that side of things. But I think AJ and the OC really needed something strong following Clash of Champions, coming into Raw, and I think this was it. But the match itself that they were involved in, I know it's not the highlight, but I will mention it. It was a fun little match. The Viking Raiders are. I love the Viking Raiders. They are so good in the ring and very agile for the big men, and I like that. I like seeing the big guys being able to do, kind of athletic stuff. It's impressive as hell. I can't even do it, and I'm half their size, so I'm impressed by that kind of stuff. They're a great team. I enjoy them down in NXT, and it's nice to see them not squashing people now. And by that I mean jobbers. It's nice to see them move away from jobbers. So we'll see how that whole pans out. But ultimately, the OC dominant once again. And actually, this kind of feeds into the ending of the show, which, screw it. I'm mentioning it now. They came out randomly at the main event, so it seems they're still tied to Seth Rollins. But I think Corey mentioned that it's just them like gaining control of Raw kind of thing. Like they just want to run the show. So them entering themselves into that main event situation, it kind of feeds into that side of things. So it's not really a confusing matter. Again, shows how dominant they are. It was an absolute beatdown. Of course, they weren't on their own, but they looked ruthless in doing so, and came across as a very, very strong unit. And that ultimately is the goal for me when it comes to OC. I need them to be absolutely dominant, not to be wimps, not to be running away, not to be, decisively crushed all the time. Just have them doing this kind of stuff, and it'll sell. Simple as that. My second highlight is, it was an easy one, to be honest, and I knew it was going to be in my top 3. It was the King of the Ring final match between Baron Corbin and Chad Gable. I can actually hear right now the keyboards tapping away in anger that Corbin is now King Corbin. Looking forward to seeing that going down for the next couple of months. That's the one thing I'm actually going to take away from this, is that King gimmicks I'm not a fan of. I didn't like King Barrett. I didn't like Sheamus when he did it. I didn't even like King Booker. Didn't even like that. So King gimmicks for me, no thank you. I will pass on that, but I can fully expect Baron Corbin to either come out on SmackDown or come out next week on Raw wearing the whole shebang and annoying me. And not in a good way, because I like Baron Corbin. I'm a fan of Baron Corbin's. I don't care that he won King of the Ring. I really don't. I'm a little bit of a fan of it, to be honest. I'll say it. There you go. Baron Corbin is the most effective heel in WWE. That's it. And for him to win the tournament itself is a little bit surprising, considering how the negative reception that he had for the whole feud with Seth Rollins. I don't think he came across well in that whole thing. So for him to come away and win this is surprising. But again, I'm not against it. I don't get me wrong. I thought Chad Gable was gonna win as well at a few points during the match. But the match itself. Let's just talk about the match itself for a second. It was really, really good. I know it was a dominant performance from Baron Corbin, but that's exactly what it needed to be. If they're playing this whole Chad Gable is a short ass card, then Baron Corbin completely, not necessarily squashing him, but being incredibly dominant over him makes sense. So I was happy with it. It was telling the right story. for the match and, the people involved in the match. And Chad Gable was the perfect underdog. He did really, really well on his comeback spots. The crowd were massively into it. And I've noticed that the last 2 matches that Chad Gable has had in this tournament, the crowd have really, really gotten behind him recently. And, that didn't change for this match. The crowd were on fire for Chad Gable. And I think there was even some cheers for Baron Corbin actually winning the match as well. But that might have just been because, they'd enjoyed, what they'd just seen. I don't really know. I can't speak on behalf of the fans. But just from watching on TV, it really looked like everybody had a good time. The match was great. It was really, really good. And I'm happy with the outcome. I am. Sue me. I know there are going to be some people that aren't happy, but I'm a happy man. My third and final top highlight of the show, that ending. My God, not that I've never seen something like that in wrestling before, but I haven't seen it for a very, very, very long time. Kane coming out for a start was interesting. It kind of, I think some of the tweets I read out, a little bit are going to kind of allude to this, but the tag teams were made to look like idiots on Raw this week. They were destroyed by Braun and then destroyed by Kane. But when it fed into what we got for that ending, I don't really care. The Fiend came out just as, well, there's no pyro anymore, unfortunately, but just as Kane was about to drop his arms and then make the stage go all fiery rather than actual fire. The lights went down. We knew exactly what was going on. And the Fiend appeared behind Kane. That was an interesting visual, actually. Demonic mask Kane and then the Fiend behind him. It was a nice image. I really enjoyed. I really liked that. And of course, Kane suffered, the mandible claw. I don't know, is that what it's called? Or is the Fiend going to call it something different? I think it deserves another name. I don't know what you would call it, but I do think it deserves another name. But my favorite thing coming out of this whole ending, the Kane thing alone would have been a highlight regardless. But I think the main thing coming out of this was the fact that he didn't attack Seth. He just cowered him into a corner and just intimidated him whilst the whole screeching strobe lighting thing was going on. That was an amazing way to end Raw for me. Seth really sold the fear of the Fiend. Nobody's really come face to face with the Fiend yet, like Seth has. They've always just been attacked from behind, that kind of thing. This really built up the Fiend even more, which I'm impressed that they can still do that they can still build the Fiend up to be more and more and more and more. And this ending completely did that. I was sold on the feud anyway, but now I'm 110% into it now. What an ending. And it didn't even end there. We had the Firefly Funhouse music come on for a little bit, and it was all distorted and all weird. And I'll tell you what, I think actually when the graphic was up for the Funhouse, I think they actually turned it upside down to make us kind of think that maybe Bray Wyatt had something to do with the upside down graphics at the start of the show, which was funny as hell, by the way. Especially when Renee kind of commented on it. He was just like, this isn't right. But the whole ending was great. It was fantastic. Definitely worthy of my top 3, or a space in my top 3 highlights. There were more highlights, and I'm not gonna go into as depth as I did last week. Okay, I'll just say what they are. Just give a little bit on it, and that's it. We'll move on. We'll see how long that lasts. Bray is just throughout the show, the actual Funhouse segments as Bray Wyatt, I actually really enjoyed them. They were short, but they were effective. And to see them dotted around the show, initially during Seth's promo, we saw that. But throughout the show, we saw him crop up every now and then, saying he's going to look for some new friends. He was putting up the pictures of people he's attacked so far. Then Seth was added to that. it was effective. It built really, really well into what we got for that ending, so I was happy with that. The whole 24/7 title stuff this week was magic. And not only, I'm going to say, because obviously it's an obvious route to go. If you're praising the 24/7 title, you've probably got R-Truth or Drake Maverick attached to that. But this week, we had Glenn Jacobs attached to the 24/7 title. In fact, he actually won the title off R-Truth, which was brilliant. I loved it. And it was great to see them acknowledge him as Glenn Jacobs, his actual name, and not Kane. They could have just said, here's Kane. But they went with Glenn Jacobs. And it kind of caught me off guard. I knew, obviously, that was his name. I know full well that he's the mayor of Knox County. But to actually hear them, call him Glenn Jacobs a few times during the show, I quite like that. It reminded me a little bit of Corporate Kane. And I don't think Corporate Kane actually got as much credit as I think he deserved. I don't think that whole gimmick was as bad as people made it out to be. But hey, that's just me. But that whole stuff between the two of those guys was brilliant. And it kind of reminded me of that time that R-Truth came out. I think it was just before a Money in the Bank. They were all kind of in the ring together, and you had Corporate Kane at the side. And R-Truth kind of came out and said he was going to do his own thing in the match. And Kane was just like, "You're not even in the match." It kind of reminded me of that. And yeah, I'm all for nostalgia with that kind of stuff. Mysterio versus Cesaro. It was. I'm going to just say it was weird that Cesaro wasn't in his ring gear, despite the fact it was a scheduled match. That was a little bit strange. It wasn't like he was just thrown into it. Strange. But the match was good. They've had better matches though, which is why it's not a top 3 highlight for me. And I think it was earlier on in the year where they had I think maybe did they have like 2 or 3 matches together? I might be thinking of Ricochet and Mysterio. I might be wrong, but I'm going to say I'm sure Cesaro and Mysterio have faced each other this year a few times, and when they have, it's been really, really good. I just don't think this matched up to what they've done before. But there were some cool spots. I'm just not happy with. I think Ray, if he lost, it feeds into the storyline that he's got at the moment with the whole, I should be retiring, and then Dominic will come out and say, no, look, I want to be, I want my first match in WWE. I want to tag with you, all that kind of stuff. I think Cesaro needed a win. Like at the moment, he's just lapping up losses left, right, and center. Apart from his win against Dragunov on NXT UK TakeOver, which seems like when you watch this, you see him lose, and for the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've seen him lose since that TakeOver. It just seems such a long time ago now that we saw Cesaro in Wales kicking some ass and proving why we love him so much. But now he's back to eating losses again. So maybe this draft will do him some favors. I really, really hope it does him some favors. And finally, it was really, really good to see 2 people make their returns this week. AOP, after nothing for, I think they were in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania. I think they were, but it wasn't even advertised. It wasn't promoted. It wasn't built up. They were just there. They got eliminated, and that was that. So they've been ready to go since WrestleMania, and we're only just getting them now in September, which is like 5 months later. But whatever, it is what it is. It was kind of like a foreign promo. I don't know why that's the way they went, but I guess it made it more effective. They're still heels, which is good to see. I still want Paul Ellering to come back and manage them, because that's when they were at their very peak. That's when they were at their very best. But I'll be interested to see what they do with AOP, and I'm so happy to see them coming back. And I'm definitely sure it's got Heyman's hands all over this. Like, maybe we're going to see a little bit of a tag team revival. This boy can dream, because I love tag team wrestling. So they're starting to bring everyone back. The War Raiders, Jesus Christ, that was a good time. The Viking Raiders, they're away from the jobbers now. The OC, are looking dominant. You got AOP coming back. You got Rude and Ziggler, a fresh new team. really putting their mark on the division. It's looking good. It's looking good. So fingers crossed, something good comes out of this. And then Rusev came back as well during a horrendous angle. I mean, it's not horrendous as such. It just kind of exists. Even the announcers didn't really take the whole thing seriously. They were taking the piss from the whole match and kind of laughing about it. And then Rusev was revealed as Maria Kanellis' unborn child's father. It was, a bit weird. I don't think that's how the storyline's going to continue, to be honest. But, yeah, strange way to reintroduce Rusev. But the guy looks great. And he also has a mustache. So there you go. And WWE really... This is the thing that worries me. WWE are honing in on the fact that he has a mustache. I've seen a few things on social media that say, Rusev is back and he has a mustache. Like, please don't make that his gimmick. Please do not make that his gimmick. It's just good to see him back, looking incredibly good as well. Like, he seems to have shedded a lot of weight and just beefed up on muscle. Which, it's good to see that. Like, Dean Ambrose did it, last year, and, now Rusev's come back and done it himself. Even Mike Kanellis did it himself. So it's good to see Rusev back. It really is. But there you go. There are my top 3 highlights, and then brief highlights, my honorable mentions, if you will. I really enjoyed Raw, like I said. I thought it was a really good show, and... it's not... Like, I harp on it about all the time, but it's just really good to see Raw good. It's good to see Raw good. That is the long and short of it. But what did you guys think of Monday Night Raw this week? We do have some tweets. Of course we have some tweets. I always have tweets for you from the Twitterverse. Wrestle the blog, Jay with Welsh flag. So you're obviously Welsh. Otherwise, that'd be a bit strange. Please send Cesaro to SmackDown Live at the draft so you can stop burying him for no reason. I agree. I just said it. Move him to SmackDown. Or where... I find just having the draft in general is going to do wonders because it's going to create some fresh matchups for him. I say that as if the wildcard rule isn't a thing or, whatever they want to call it these days. I don't think it's even a thing now. It's just people just show up wherever they want. I think the problem I have here is that I don't think it matters who he's facing or what brand he's on. I think he's just going to be buried regardless. And it's a shame. It is a shame. It's a stop-start build, but it's mostly stops rather than starts. And I think the absolute world of Cesaro as a wrestler. It really is a shame that we're not seeing him, towards the top of the card. Genuinely, I think that's where he belongs, top of the card. But there you go. That's just me. That's just me. Joseph at Green Tea Wizard said, here we go again. Cesaro should have beat Mysterio to continue his downfall and give Cesaro an important win. Again, exactly what I said during the highlight bit there. Mysterio could have taken the loss. It feeds into his story. Why does Cesaro have to eat it? Cesaro needs this win. He needs to be built. Like, you just repackaged him as something that isn't the Bar. I don't know what his gimmick is, to be honest, but he's just Cesaro. Just let him just do his thing, but pick up wins at the same time. It's not hard. Gorilla Position at WWE GP. They said, I keep thinking about Raw. A fair chunk of throwaway nonsense, yes, but so much to love. Something about this show kept me glued. Fiend attacking Kane. To his wall of friendship, Rude in a main event, chair-wielding horsewomen, and AOP looking like true killers. Very fun show. If I had to sum up Raw in one tweet, I don't think I could do better than that. They've hit the nail completely on the head. There was nonsense, like I said, the whole gender revealing thing, and then Ricochet's the dad. Yeah, nonsense. You could say that is the word, nonsense. But there was so much stuff to love. There really, really was, and yeah, I love the show. Gorilla Position have got a spot on there, that's why they're verified, because they are spot on. Locker Talk says, what a damn match by Corbin and Gable. Both men looked like stars. The crowd was hooked into the idea that the underdog might come away with a shocking win. Well done, gents. I echo that sentiment. Absolutely. That is one of my favorite. In fact, I will actually go and say this. That was better than any match from Clash of Champions. There you go. That's my thoughts. I don't know if people are going to agree with that, but I actually do think it was better than Becky versus Bayley. Jesus Christ. Becky versus Sasha. There you go. Brian MUFC82 said, way to make your sets of tag team champions look strong by having Braun run through both of them easily. Yeah. This is, again, something I mentioned very, very briefly. I don't like it when they make the tag teams look ridiculously stupid and weak. Braun came out and just absolutely trashed the Revival and Ziggler and Rude, and then Kane came out at the end of the night and did more or less the same. Come on, you know what I mean? I get it. Like, to be fair, it is probably actually believable that Braun could destroy, 4 people. It really is. But these are your champions. The Revival and Ziggler or Rudolph, whatever you want to call them, like, they're your champions. They're your tag team champions. Don't make them look like idiots. It's frustrating. It really is frustrating. Andre Magnum said the AOP should have never let WWE management talk them into getting rid of Paul Ellering. In my honest opinion, if he was still managing them, their careers would be further along. Again, this is something I talked about. Paul Ellering was the peak period of AOP's existence. I think there was something about him, the mouthpiece, just the way he was, his whole demeanor and everything. It just made AOP just seem like a really big deal. Having somebody like Paul Ellering behind them, backing them. What happens now with AOP? I don't know what direction they're going to go in, but I'm optimistic for them. I don't know what this new, the new iteration of them is going to be, but I'm all for it, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing them back in the ring again because I'm a huge fan of AOP. I think they're really, really good. There you go. They were the tweets for this week. Mostly positive stuff there, to be fair, but there was also a lot of negativity that I saw. But as there's always going to be negativity when it comes to wrestling, and sadly that's just the way it is. But there you go. But now, before we move on to SmackDown Live, we have a voice clip from Lone Lee, who was supposed to give the SmackDown voice clip last week, but we had some technical issues, so I brought him back for Monday Night Raw's voice clip. Here he is with his thoughts on Raw.
Hello all, this is Lone Lee from very sunny California. I am an engagingly active and quick-witted follow on Twitter, perhaps best known for my opinion article that drops weekly on NoDQ.com called Wrestling Logically. So I'd like to thank Ditz for having me on the show for my thoughts on Raw, and it's nice to talk instead of type for once. First I have to say this particular episode of Raw was masterfully structured. The build throughout the night of the Universal title feud and the fun of the 24/7 title feud, it created must-see TV. And who would have thought at the end of the night they'd kind of coincide? Another legend falls at the hands of the Fiend, and they create that very chilling moment where Bray creeps on a battered Seth Rollins and just stares at him. My roommate actually walked in at that very moment, and she hasn't watched wrestling in years. And she said it looked like something out of a horror movie. And I told her about the Alien 3 gift, and she agreed. And that's the thing about Bray Wyatt, is he can draw you in. He's a character. He makes it fun again. And we're still learning more about the character as time goes on. So this is the perfect time for him to feud. And it's getting more exciting as the weeks go on. Another thing I liked about Raw was the 6-man tag. And it got some criticism, but I think it showed us 2 good things. That the tag division is solid. You have the Raiders and the Good Brothers Instead, they just use makeshift tag teams, and they have Braun Strowman attack every tag team ever, but there's promise there. There's also promise with AOP, who's being repackaged. And the other good thing from that six-man tag was AJ Styles. He can work with anybody, and we all knew that. He put on great matches with Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. They said Cedric is kind of being buried, but I don't see that. I think he's being elevated. He's working with the top-tier talent. He's not quite ready for that title, and I'd rather it be primed for him instead of just being thrusted on him with no real challengers. And I think what they're doing with AJ is kind of putting him in that open challenge Cena role, where he's working with a lot of the younger guys, grooming them for that next big thing. And I'd like to see him work with Aleister Black or Andrade or Buddy Murphy. Nothing bad can come from that, only good. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. All hail King Corbin. And I wrote about it in my latest article that Corbin is the king that we need. And look at the match. Corbin went into his match with the usual boos, and Gable had almost no reaction. None. But by the end of their 19-minute match, the crowd was clamoring for Gable to take the throne. And that was mostly because of Corbin's heat. Sure, Gable's a likable, pugnacious little Kurt Angle type, but Corbin is borderlining between that hatred that you just loathe and that cool heat that you hate him so much you like him. And this King of the Ring title will give him that propulsion to the next level. I think within a year we're all going to be remembering the time that we used to hate him. Right now he's on a roll, and it's only going to get better. I mean, the rest of the show was just kind of there. Mysterio and Cesaro was there. Rusev is being repackaged kind of in the Lars Sullivan role, and hopefully he can make it work. He usually makes whatever they give him make it work. Lacey was just kind of there. The gender thing, I don't want to talk about that. But another thing was Sasha Banks didn't really sell her beating from the night before, neither did Braun Strowman. He didn't really sell his knee, but Sami Zayn's been selling a chokeslam from The Undertaker for a week. It's a little thing, but it's old school in me. I like to see the injuries sold as much as they are. That's how we believe they went to war. But it was a very solid show, and Raw hasn't been a solid show, thanks to Heyman and the likes of Bray Wyatt and others that are promising. It was very solid, and I can't wait for next week. Thank you again, Ditz, for having me on, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Very happy to have finally got Lee onto the podcast in some way, shape, or form. He's been a follower of Ditz on Wrestling since before the podcast was even a thing. So it's nice to get him on and kind of give back a little bit. Like you all know his deal now. He gave his little plug at the start, so go and check out all of that stuff. You won't be disappointed. Lee's a good guy. Give him a follow. That is Raw. A great episode of Raw, for me, anyway. And, well, I guess that means we have a little bit of SmackDown Live to talk about. So, Shane, do your thing.
Welcome, everyone, to SmackDown Live!
So that was a pretty awesome episode of SmackDown Live, wasn't it? Really, really impressed with what I've literally watched it. And now I'm talking about it. I had to just give my freshest take on SmackDown Live this week. It was so good. I honestly, I tried to think of. I mean, I know like the way I've been perceiving wrestling recently, the way I've been going about watching it is to avoid looking for the negatives. But because this show was so good, in my head I was like, this can't be right. There's got to be something I can pick up here. And honestly, there wasn't really anything, which is surprising. And this is the first time, I think, in a while that SmackDown has, truly been as good as it was back in its heyday, like 2 years ago, whenever it was, when SmackDown Live first came to be. Such a good show, really good show. And, I mean, it's been hard trying to pick a top 3 highlights for this, because, there were so many great things that happened on SmackDown this week. But, of course, I have picked a top 3, but there will be the honourable mentions, so do not worry about that. The first one, really, I had to go with it because of the shock value of it. Brock Lesnar appearing on SmackDown Live was like completely unexpected, and the fact that it wasn't even in the main event segment, it was just like tag match was done, New Day celebrate, out comes Brock Lesnar, like what the hell is going on? I mean, I guess as soon as you saw him come out, you knew exactly where it was going. It's been talked about for so long now that come SmackDown moving to Fox, Brock Lesnar's going to be there to take that title off Kofi or, whoever the WWE champion would be at the time. And that is where we are right now. We're going to get, well, I mean, let's just look at this thing. It looks like Brock Lesnar will be WWE champion come the 4th of October. Is that when it is? Probably. Maybe. Whenever SmackDown moves to Fox. That first night, we are going to crown a new WWE champion because, I mean, I guess from a business point of view, it makes sense. I've enjoyed Kofi's run, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't reached, that initial moment that he had at WrestleMania. And to be fair, that moment was huge, so, that's a little bit unsurprising, but a lot of people are going to hate it. A lot of people are going to hate it, but I've always been a fan of Brock. I have no issue with him taking the title off Kofi. Like, I know it's a good thing for the company. I mean, from a fan's point of view and from, just something fresh, maybe keep Kofi as champion. But apart from that, Kofi can move on to other stuff now. Whatever that ends up being. Like, it doesn't mean he doesn't have to, when he doesn't get to challenge for the WWE Championship again, because honestly, I think he's deserved it. I think the reign's been good, but it's, it hasn't been amazing. But let's be honest, Kofi has been really, really good, like with everything, promos, in-ring stuff. Like it's kind of elevated him a lot, having that title. So there's no reason that somewhere down the line, he can't get another shot at the WWE Championship. Like, there really isn't. But Brock coming back, man. Like, completely blew me off. And it wasn't even spoiled for me either, because I tried to avoid Twitter for SmackDown this week, and for the most part, I did. So I was happy with that. It's very rare where I get surprised, because I always have to go on Twitter and just see what's going on. And then halfway through doing so, I realized, there was a wrestling show on last night. Oh, and there's a tweet about it. And there's, there's a big spoil. I've spoiled that. I might as well look at this next tweet. Oh, there's another spoil. It's a sad road to be on, but that's what it is. That's what it is. But no, really good moment. Capped off with a nice little F5. I think some people sell it. Well, I mean, I guess it's the case for all moves, but Kofi really sold the F5. Sometimes I think an F5 doesn't look great when the receiver lands on their back, but Kofi got the full spin. Hell, even Michael Cole a few years ago got that nice spin and landed on his front. That's the best F5, where they're kind of just flat and then they bounce up a little bit. Yeah, Kofi managed that. Good sell, good moment. Happy with that. Next highlight. I struggle between two here, because one's a definite. I couldn't ignore that at all, but I have two here. It was a juggle. I've gone with the coronation of King Corbin, and it wasn't just the coronation itself, because it was fun. This is kind of what we all expected. We knew we were going to have some kind of king gimmick, at least initially. I don't know, how that's going to pan out going forward, if he's going to come out with, his cape and scepter, next week on WWE TV. We'll see. But it was going to be, the whole, kingdom stuff. I will rule, fairly, blah, whatever he came out with. It was Baron Corbin. It was Baron Corbin. And, I'll say it again. I am a fan of Baron Corbin, so I don't really care, about him being the King of the Ring, him portraying this character for now. I'm happy. But then Chad Gable came out, and then this whole segment just kind of jumped up another level. Like, it's so refreshing to see Chad Gable actually stand up for himself after all the prodding about his height and just people being dickheads really to him. That's what it boils down to. People just being dickheads to him, and he just stood there and took it for the most part. But SmackDown Live, we had a different side. He didn't take it. He attacked Corbin and then just absolutely destroyed anything to do with that coronation. The throne, the scepter, the cape, the crown itself. I loved it. It was a great little segment. And these guys have really good chemistry together. So I'm looking forward to anything that they do together moving forward, whether it's just, a blow-off match at Hell in a Cell, which it probably will be. It's gonna. I think based on the match they had on Raw this week, which obviously I've talked about and told you how amazing it was, I think we're in for a treat. And I think they can do it again at Hell in a Cell, and I will be happy. Corbin will win, let's be honest. But Gable has his fans right now. He'll come away still looking strong. Good stuff. Love it. Now, my third highlight was a very, very, very easy one. So Daniel Bryan came out at the close of the show to say, just to talk about the whole Rowan situation, saying that, he always saw him as his equal, his friend, yada, yada, yada. Rowan came out and, sprouted off the disrespecting stuff. Then, Daniel Bryan went from, he's my friend, to, yeah, come on then. That's just kind of how it went, prodding the beast. And then Luke Harper came out and just obliterated Daniel Bryan. Roman tried to make the save, didn't quite pan out for him that way, and then it just became an utter bludgeoning of Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan by Harper and Rowan. Big fan. Really am a big fan. Look, I love Rowan looking really great at the moment. Even the promo we did earlier on in the show was clunky, it was awkward, but I think that fits his character on it, really. And then it was, Harper is just, back to his great self, he's just kind of carried on from where he left off. Not a bad thing, but that whole entire beatdown, the destruction of the ring, the security guards, coming in, Daniel Bryan, that whole ending, slamming him through the table. Oh, it was great stuff. Such a good way to finish on SmackDown. They could have so easily have gone with Brock Lesnar as the finish to SmackDown, but they went with Harper and Rowan. Great way, honestly, great way to finish SmackDown. What this means going forward, I don't know. It's going to obviously is Daniel Bryan being face again now? You could say that about Charlotte. There's lots of face turns coming around here because heels are, turning on heels. I don't know how it's going to pan out. It's probably going to be Daniel Bryan and Reigns against Harper and Rowan at Hell in a Cell, but that's a difficult one to book because, you really expect Reigns and Bryan to win that, but if you're booking Harper and Rowan to be so strong, you don't want to kind of put the loss on their heads so soon either. So I'll be interested to see how this all pans out, but it was great. Absolutely fantastic. It capped off a really, really, really good episode of SmackDown Live for me. But that is not to say that there weren't other good things on the show. The opening tag match was really, really good before Brock showed up. It was nice that we started off with a match rather than, your typical promo to start the show. So that was good. But the fact that the 6-man was actually a pretty good match actually helped. It all built towards the end. It's the end point of both these sets of guys' feuds. They're going to move on and do their own thing now, but this was a really good way to end that. Even though you could have argued that, well, actually, no, you couldn't because Kofi beat Randy. Well, yeah, both were decisive ends to their feuds. Maybe New Day have a case because of how Revival went about ending that match at Clash of Champions, but perfect way to end this feud, really is. Both these sets of teams can go off and do their own thing. Hopefully the Revival stick with Orton, because I really enjoy seeing them three together. I think they work really, really well, and it gives Orton an extra dimension, which is really good to see. The Kevin Owens stuff with Shane, handing Shane like a $25 million lawsuit. Yeah, I mean, initially I was kind of, here we go, where's this going? But Kevin Owens came in the ring and produced, a really good promo. Shock. This thing should have ended at SummerSlam. It really should, but it's went off the rails a couple of times since then. But I think this whole segment has brought it back on track. Owens said if he wins, obviously he'll be taking a lot of money away from Shane, but also Shane will be fired. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and when the conclusion to it will be. You got a lot of people complaining about this because people are saying, "Oh well, if this was Stone Cold back in the day, then he would have just beat him up." Yeah, okay, that's Stone Cold. It doesn't really matter, From a storyline point of view, like you don't want Kevin Owens, wouldn't want him to put himself in a situation where he isn't getting this job back at all. So I can see exactly his reasoning. Storyline wise, he's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It doesn't matter. It served its purpose. It was impactful. It's got a direction coming out of it. I can't complain. I really can't complain. And then when you look at the rest of the show, Heavy Machinery looked great. They're a really, really fun team. Charlotte versus Sasha was a pretty good match as well. That's kind of... Carmella's entered into this whole thing now as well, so it looks like Bayley might have a new opponent at Hell in a Cell. Maybe it'll be a triple threat between Bayley, Carmella, and Charlotte. Is Charlotte now a face? I don't really know. It's all very strange. I know if she's just walking the line, but she seems to be playing up to the crowd quite a lot. I don't like Charlotte as a face. I'll say that now. I do not like Charlotte as a face. But if that's where they're going, that's where they're going. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just nice to see the four horsewomen all working together in some way, shape, or form. And, that's really cool to see. But ultimately, yeah, it was a really, really good episode of SmackDown Live. But what did you guys think of SmackDown this week? We got a couple of tweets, as we always do. Let me just load these bad boys up for you. Unedited this. Completely uncut. You are currently listening to me live trying to find the tweets. Here we go. Krendel the Tweet Slayer. Brock Lesnar's title reigns may be boring, etc., but every time he actually shows up for work, it's pretty freaking special. He's a huge draw. I'm alright with him becoming the new WWE champion. Go Brock. Yeah. That is true. You cannot argue with the impact that Brock Lesnar makes. Like, a lot of people do not like him, or not necessarily might not like him, but just the way that he's booked. It can be very, very frustrating for some people. Like I said earlier, I am a fan of Brock Lesnar, so this really doesn't matter to me. I'm happy with him becoming WWE champion. I really am. But there is absolutely no doubt he is one hell of a draw, and that is why that championship will be slapped over his shoulder come SmackDown's debut on Fox. I'm not even going to bother trying to throw in a date there because I don't even know if it's right. David at DayP82. I really want to see Carmella back wrestling again rather than just R-Truth's sidekick. I think it's about time Carmella had another SmackDown Women's title match, maybe against Bayley at Hell in a Cell. Yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned. Maybe you should. I think it will end up being a triple threat, to be honest, at Hell in a Cell between Carmella, Bayley, and Charlotte. But I've enjoyed seeing her do her stuff with R-Truth as part of the 24/7 title stuff. But I think the fact that she hasn't taken that title off him yet, or any of the other people who have had it, and it's all just kind of gone, kind of just been supporting R-Truth. It's just nice to see her do her own thing here. Look after number one and just enter herself into this situation. And I like Carmella. I've got nothing against her. It would be nice to actually see her wrestle for a change. So we've got that to look forward to. Call It in the Ring Media said, Baron Corbin is someone who constantly is talked about negatively. However, his in-ring work is great, and Gable and Corbin have great chemistry. Absolutely. I actually think that you could put him in the conversation for the most improved wrestler of the year so far. I mean, come the end of the year, that statement will still ring true. He's improved massively between those ropes this year. Character-wise as well, I think he's built on that. You know, people perceive his character as go-away heat. I just perceive it as he's being a very, very effective heel. Simple as that. But Gable and Corbin, they do have something together. They work really, really well together. So, I mean, they're going to have a match at Hell in a Cell. I'm calling it. And that's going to be fun as, well, hell. And, that's it. Only 3 tweets for SmackDown I've liked this week. There you go. But that's not the end of SmackDown, guys. Because we have another voice clip. But this time, of course, it is for SmackDown Live. And this time, it is provided by one Josh Robinson of the Wrestling Reverb podcast and my co-host of Ditz vs. Josh, which I assure you is coming back in the very near future. It's been on a bit of a hiatus, for, about a month now. Life gets in the way, but we are getting back into it. However, that doesn't mean we still don't talk. Of course we talk. We are good. We're good wrestling friends. We're just good friends in general. And he's provided a clip for SmackDown this week. Here are Josh's general thoughts on SmackDown Live.
What is going on, everybody? It is Josh Robinson here from Wrestling Reverb, from The Josh Robinson Show, from Ditz vs. Josh. And I thought I'd send in a nice little clip this week for the Ditz on Wrestling podcast to kind of let you know my thoughts on SmackDown Live. Now, I love SmackDown. I love WWE, really. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm very kind of optimistic with the way I watch WWE. But this week's SmackDown in particular, I did enjoy. We're kind of on the road to... SmackDown on Fox more so than Hell in a Cell, but we're really gearing up for these. Next week is the last week of SmackDown on USA and SmackDown on Tuesday nights. So it is going to be kind of cool to see SmackDown go to Fox and what we kind of go with. Of course, we've seen Brock and Kofi now confirmed, and that makes that first SmackDown on Fox even bigger. I'm really digging that. I think it's something different. It's something new. It's something fresh. Even if it is Brock, but we've never really seen Brock versus Kofi in this capacity ever. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see that. I enjoyed Eric Rowan and Luke Harper beating up Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. Probably going to get some kind of tag match out of that, which is cool. WWE desperately needs baby faces at the moment, not really heels. So if this means a turn for Bryan just by association, then whatever. They can count on him as a baby face or as a heel. So really doesn't matter. Other than that, this week, it wasn't like an amazing edition of SmackDown Live. It was solid. It was good. Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks was good. It's nice to see them work together again because we had an incredible rivalry with them. We're seeing Carmelo getting added into the mix. So, things are moving progressively well with all that kind of stuff that's going on with the SmackDown Women's Championship and, of course, with the Raw Women's Championship with Banks, Bayley are great as a unit. So this has been really just kind of, we're moving towards Fox, we're moving towards Hell in a Cell, we're moving towards the draft. It's going to be nice to see all of that kind of, shape up as we go into the next few weeks. It's going to be an interesting few weeks of WWE TV. We're just kind of getting to the punches. But nonetheless, it was a really fun little SmackDown, really solid show. I enjoyed it. I kind of always do. Kind of zoned out and just kind of watched it. I really enjoyed the 6-man tag to kick off the night. And all of that stuff in between. Just a fun show. But thanks, Ditz, for letting me kind of share my thoughts on SmackDown Live. And you can follow me on Twitter at JoshRobinson00. Catch my show, Wrestling Reverb, part of Brainbuster Radio, every single Friday. The Josh Robinson Show is a video cast or a podcast every single Tuesday. And whatever else I've got going on, Ditz vs. Josh will be back very, very soon. As I'm sure Ditz will probably let you know. But thank you, Ditz, and enjoy the rest of the show.
I have so much time for that man. Absolutely great dude. I'm not just saying this because he's my mate and because we have a podcast together. Like, genuinely, the content this guy pumps out, whether it's a podcast, video cast, Twitch streams, no matter what it is, it's golden. So go give him a follow. Go check out all of his stuff. Genuinely, you will not be disappointed. And, he's a nice guy as well. So there's that. Nice people are hard to find in the world of wrestling fandom. So take advantage of the fact that you are now aware. I mean, you're probably aware of him. He's appeared on this podcast numerous times, and I've probably talked about him quite a lot as well. But now, if that isn't the case, you are now aware of Josh Robinson. Go check him out. He's a good dude. And that was SmackDown, guys. So, hell, I loved SmackDown this week. I loved Raw this week. It could have been a clean sweep with Clash of Champions. It really could, but Clash of Champions just it was a little bit of a letdown, but I've moved past it. And the fact that Raw and SmackDown were so enjoyable, it's completely eradicated, any negativity I had about Clash of Champions. So there you go. That's good. It's good stuff. But the show doesn't end there, people, because we have one more. Well, we have technically two more things to get into. But right now, we have some power rankings to break down and tally up and chart. So let's get into that. Here we go. It's time for DOW Power Rankings Round 2. The points have been tallied. The top 10 is locked. Let's get this show on the road. This week last week, you were tasked with ranking performers in WWE from Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and the 2 NXTs. Nice and easy one for you this week. No pay-per-views to worry about. There were some good rankings this week. There really were. It was nice to see a few faces appear, maybe not even in the top 10, but just as general picks. Some surprising ones, which were nice to see. Of course, these are just top 10s that I do on the weekly, but I now have the all-time list building up. I have the monthly list piling up as well, which will be revealed as and when, really. So if you're picking people that are a little bit obscure that other people aren't really picking, you'll notice them when I reveal the all-times and when I reveal the monthlies. So, it doesn't matter who you pick. It will be revealed in some way, shape, or form. But this week, I am revealing the top 10 WWE performers from the week. So, straight in at number 10, Bayley. Big drop this week. She was third last week with 49 points. This week, 11 points. She had a tag match with when she teamed with Sasha against Becky and Charlotte. Came up short, but then defeated Ember Moon the following night on SmackDown. It clearly didn't do enough for you guys to push her further up the table. But hey, 10th spot isn't too bad. There's about 25 people on this list, so 10th is not enough. It's not something to be snuffed at. So that was Bayley, number 10 with 11 points. Number 9, we have AJ Styles with 12 points. I thought he would actually have been higher up, to be honest, because he sold the hell out of Stone Cold Stunner. So that alone would have given him top billing in most ranks for me. I thought he did well on the mic. I can't remember if he was actually involved in a match. I actually generally can't remember. But I thought his segments where, he was on TV. I think they were really strong. His interactions with Austin were great. There's a reason he's in this top 10, regardless of only being 9th. But he is 9th with 12 points. And let's just see where he was last week. As I'm looking down the list here, he actually didn't make it last week, so that goes to show improvement. I guess it shows improvement. I was very, very surprised he wasn't on it the week before, but there you go. Number 8, Sasha Banks with 12 points as well. But of course, the ruling is with this, just in case you were wondering, whoever reaches an amount of points first is the one that grabs it. So Styles got to 12 points after Sasha reached 12 points, just in case you were wondering. But number 8, Sasha Banks, 12 points. She's taken a 14-point drop from last week. She was 5th last week, so it's not a major drop. She's still in the top 10, which is great, but She has slid a little bit. She suffered the loss on the Monday. I don't believe she showed up on SmackDown. I might be wrong. But her impact wasn't as big as, what we've seen in recent weeks with Sasha. So she's made the top 10, but hasn't hit it as hard as she has done last week. Number 7, I like this one. Stone Cold Steve Austin, 16 points. Of course, he wasn't in it last week, and this could be his only appearance in the DOW Power Rankings, because we might not see him again for a very long time, and I don't know how long this thing is going to last, so treasure this appearance on the DOW Power Rankings. He is 6th today. He was fantastic in the contract signing. Good old Steve Austin, really was. Delivered some stunners. Beer bath at the end. What more could you want? I actually expected him to be, maybe top 3, but there you go. There are of course more people more deserving than a nostalgic thing, but it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, guys. He's great. But moving on to number 6, we have Kofi Kingston with 16 points. So again, on par with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I loved Kofi actually on SmackDown. I thought he came across really well. We had the flashback to the MSG stuff from years gone by with Orton. We had the table spot. He looked really good. Really built himself up moving into the match at Clash of Champions. So definitely worthy of a top 10 spot. Let's just see where he was last week. Just scanning through the table. I can't actually see him. How about that? He didn't even make the Power Rankings last week. So he is, I guess you could say he's a new entry. So there you go. Number 5, we're into the top 5 already. Here we go. Is this another new entry? No, it is not. It is not. Rhea Ripley is number 5, and she has 18 points. As people know, I watch NXT in like bulk. So I'll build up to like 3 episodes and smash them all out at once. So I haven't seen this match, so I can't really comment on it. But she was in a match with Shayna Baszler. I'm assuming that she picked up the loss. Is that a thing? Yeah, I know you pick up a win. Do you pick up a loss? Don't know. She lost, I think. I don't know. But I assume that she did, because otherwise I guess she'd be entered straight into into the women's title picture. But then they've got like a number 1 contenders thing going on as well this week, I think. Yeah, I don't really know what's happening. But she is your number 5 on 18 points. So there you go. Number 4, just missing out on a top 3 spot. Charlotte, 23 points. This one surprised me because I don't remember Charlotte doing all that much last week. I know she was part of the winning team against Banks and Bayley, but on SmackDown she just got in the ring and kind of looked at Bayley, and that was the end of that. So, worthy of top 4? Not really sure. I think there's probably some of the guys who are lower down. In fact, actually, some of the guys who just missed out on the top 10 would probably benefit from this spot and probably deserve that spot as well. But hey, this is your rankings, guys. So Charlotte is at number 4 with 23 points. And it's time for that top 3. We're in the top 3. And at number 3, we have Baron Corbin. 23 points. He is obviously, of course, now the king of the ring. But last week, to advance to the final, to be given the opportunity to be king of the ring, he bested Samoa Joe and Ricochet in that triple threat match in the semi-final. It was another good performance to carry on from what he achieved the week before with Cedric. So I'm loving Corbin at the moment. So there's a reason. In fact, the fact that you guys have put him in the top 3 means there's not as many haters out there as we're led to believe. He's top 3 for God's sake. Where was he last week? I'm sure he was on the list. Number 9 he was last week with 10 points. So he's risen 13 points into the top 3. So well played, Corbin. We'll probably see him. I'd actually put money on him being in the top 3 again this week because his match with Gable was phenomenal. So we'll find out next week where he is. But who is number 1? Who is number 1? I can tell you who number 2 is. Cedric Alexander with 38 points. He wasn't even in the top 10 last week. He only had 4 points last week, and now he's up at 38. with 2. Well, the number 2 spot. Now, I've been trying to remember what he did, and I know he had a match, and I'm pretty sure it was great, but I can't remember who it was against. I could have researched this. I could have, but I haven't. But whatever that match was, he obviously shone in it in order to be number 2. So there you go. He's your number 2 with 38 points. But who's number 1? Who is that number 1? Well, I can tell you that the number 1 pick is 32 points better off than they were last week. This person last week was also 4th in the DOW Power Rankings. So they've gone from 4th to 1st. That person is Chad Gable. Gable is your number 1 pick for this week's DOW Power Rankings. I mean, he bested Shane McMahon twice, essentially, earning his spot in the final. He looked really good. I mean, I know it was Shane McMahon, but that's by the by. He looked great in that match, deserved his spot in the final. Great. I'm actually surprised to see him, hit the highs of 67 points, because Tyler Bate last week was living the high life on 70 points. So he was really, really close, like 3 points behind Tyler Bate after his incredible NXT UK TakeOver match against Volta. But I think Gable is starting to really connect with the fans, which is good. I think, to be honest, it's a collective thing where we all absolutely hate the fact of, everyone calling him a short arse, despite the fact, a few people are literally half an inch taller than him. It's very weird. I don't like it. But I think collectively as fans, we can kind of hone in on the fact that it's absolute BS and get behind him as an underdog. And yeah, I mean, he was great as well this week on Raw. So next week, again, we could see him in the top 3. I hope we do. I'm a big fan of Chad Gable. So we'll see how that pans out. But that was your top 10, guys. We'll just quickly sum that one up before we head into the quick Q&A. We got number 10, Bayley with 11 points. AJ Styles with 12 at 9th. 8th spot, Sasha Banks, 12 points. 7th, Stone Cold Steve Austin with 16 points. At number 6, Kofi with 16 points. Getting into the top 5, we've got Rhea Ripley with 18 points. Number 4, Charlotte Flair, 23 points. Number 3, the new King of the Ring, Baron Corbin, 23 points. Cedric Alexander with 38 points in 2nd. And Chad Gable, number 1, with 67 points. There you go. There's your DOW Power Rankings for this week. Of course, as always is the case, when this episode drops on Thursday, the window for the next week is open. And this time it's going to include Clash of Champions, Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and the NXTs as well. So some big stuff to rank this week. We've got NXT moving to TV, so you've got that to rank, and of course Clash of Champions as well. So look out for that tweet on Twitter. I'll of course tag most of you to get those tweets out and shared, so you're aware that it's dropped. Get your rankings in, guys. This thing is this is something I really enjoy doing, and it gets a lot of interaction from you guys, which is fun. So go check that out. Go on Twitter. Get your votes in now. But before we head into the shameless plugs and the goodbyes, it's time for a very, very quick Q&A. Just the one question this week from a new listener who has recently found the show. I'm very, very glad. He's going to be a future drafter on my DOW Draft That series, so look out for that. But the question is from Stone Cold Ads, a fellow Plymouth wrestling fan. He has asked, do you have to book 4 feuds for Pete Dunne in his first year in the US, so with the NXT proper, I guess. Who are they against and why? There's so many people he can feud against. It really is. Roderick Strong, I think, is somebody he could feud with straight away. They've wrestled before countless times as kind of like an introduction. I mean, they faced each other at the last takeover as well, but kind of an introduction to Pete Dunne on the NXT roster proper. I think that would be a nice little feud to get him into, especially if Roderick Strong is the North American champion as well, because that could be the case after this week's NXT. So I think that'd be a nice one for him to get his teeth into straight away. Who else could he face? I'd love to see him face Killian Dane. I think that would be a really, really hard hitting match, and I don't know how the dynamic would work between the two of them, or why they'd even feud in the first place. But I don't think that really matters. I think they could actually pull off something pretty spectacular. And let's face it, they've probably faced before. I don't know if they have, but I think that could be a really fun feud between the two of those, because Killian Dane's come back with a new nasty streak, and Pete Dunne is definitely capable of a little bit of nastiness. So put these two guys together, I'm for it. Two more. Who else is there? I'm trying to think of Adam Cole, I guess, would be an obvious one. There's no reason why Pete Dunne can't go for the NXT Championship. He is on that level. I think he's faced Adam Cole before in the ring. I think their styles mesh pretty well together. So I think that'd be a pretty credible feud for Pete Dunne. Who else is there heel-wise? Dijakovic. I'm throwing that one in there. I think that would be really, really good, because Dijakovic is a big guy, but he can fly around that ring like a cruiserweight. So you can kind of have that against the bruiserweight. There you go. They're both capable of flips, and it's not something you would expect when you look at both of them. But I think kind of like the Dane thing, that would be really hard hitting, really fun. There'd be so many amazing spots in it. For this one, I just have it as an exhibition. Wouldn't even have to feud. Just have that as an exhibition match, and I think it would be a lot of fun. But there you go. Maybe those will come true. Maybe not. But Pete Dunne on NXT proper is a very, very exciting thing going forward, especially with this move to TV now as well. You need guys like Pete Dunne around, so it's a very, very good move. Good move on WWE's part, on Triple H's part. There you go. That was the Q&A. Of course, I'll keep doing this. I don't care if it's one question or 6 questions. I'm always going to have a Q&A, as and when I can fit it in. But there we go, guys. That is all we have time for today. A very action-packed show for somebody riding solo. I've gone back to my roots with this one. I enjoyed it. It'll be nice to get a guest back on again next week, though. However, as I said, I am replugging this. Coming this Monday, I've decided when this is dropping now. This Monday, episode 2 of DOW Draft That with Will, and we will be doing the Attitude Era. There you go. We will be drafting the Attitude Era. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go check that out. It'll be dropping on Monday. I will be promoting the hell out of it up until then, and when it drops, I'll be promoting the hell out of it once again. So that's something to look forward to. And go check out episode 1 as well with Anthony Talk stuff. A lot of fun. You can go find this podcast or any of my other episodes over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker as part of the SLTD Podcast Network, iHeartRadio, and countless other podcast places. So go check that out. Fan Art Fridays, still a thing over on sltdwrestling.com. Go check that out. That'll be dropping on Friday this week. And go check out the Wrestle Hub they've got going on there as well. One-stop shop for all of your content. If you want your stuff promoted and you're struggling to get it out there, go and join the Wrestle Hub today, because this will sort you out nicely. Going to be a good group of people in this thing to go and get involved with that. But that's it. That is all we have time for. Good guest potentially lined up for next week, but there are some good guests coming. I can at least reveal that. So there's stuff to look forward to with the DOW podcast for sure. It's exciting times. It really is exciting times. But thank you very much for listening. As always, massively appreciate every single listen, every single download, subscription. It's a humbling thing. It really is a humbling thing. But thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you on Monday for DOW Draft That episode 2.